Hey everyone, today we're going to be dialing in and tasting a new single origin espresso called San Cristóbal Cucho, named for the village that the two farmers who have contributed coffee to this lot have their farms. It's in San Marcos region in Guatemala, which is a relatively new region for us, and we'll explain a little bit about how we sourced the coffee, how we've approached roasting it, and how it tastes in the cup. So in the past, we've focused our buying in Guatemala in Huehuetenango and also around Fraijanes area for espresso. But this year, we went to visit with Caravella in their new lab in Mixco, near Guatemala City. And we cupped some really interesting coffees, and it kept seeming to be coffees from San Marcos that really stood out to us. There's a lot of sort of yellow fruit characteristics and really, really nice balance and elegance to them. So instead of going up to Huehuetenango with them, which we had initially planned, we actually headed west through Xela and spent some time in San Marcos, getting to know the farms, how they work there. And one of the lots that really stood out to us was a combination of coffee from Eduardo Orozco and Francisco Gonzales. We actually got to meet with Francisco Gonzales and visit his farm, and he's an elderly gentleman, 85 years old, with 65 years of experience working with coffee. So he has seen it all and was really, really welcoming and shows how he looks after his trees, how he processes the coffee, and where he dries it, which was actually at one of his grandchildren's houses in near the small town of San Cristóbal Cucho. So Don Francisco is planting Bourbon variety coffee cherries on his farm, which is around 1,800 to 1,900 meters in altitude. And he doesn't do much active pruning. They're pretty wild old trees. He has a great emotional attachment to the trees. So even with the advice from Pekka, from Douglas, who is the Caravella representative from Pekka there, it's a struggle to get them to prune because there is such an emotional bond with the trees. But they are in great health. And after harvesting the cherries, they're manually depulping. He's got a small depulper which is cranked by hand, and the mucilage covered parchment is left to break down underwater, which was a little different to the norm we saw in the area. It's either in a plastic-lined tank or in plastic tubs with a lid sealed for about 36 hours. So it's quite a cool climate in this part of San Marcos. So after it's fully fermented and broken down, they will wash it all off, wash off all the sugars. And what we saw, which was initially a little bit scary, is that the coffee was put out on black tarps on the rooftop to dry on patio. Typically when we've seen coffee drying on tarps, it's a sort of shortcut to dry faster. But there it's really a requisite, it's really required because it's so cold and the sunlight hours are so limited. Without it there, they couldn't get the coffee dry. So the coffee's on tarps. They only really get sun until about 2-3 p.m. in the afternoon when fog rolls in and the sunlight really goes. So they cover it up overnight to avoid the coffee reabsorbing any moisture. So it's still about 12 days to dry, even using the tarps. So this lot, San Cristóbal Cucho Espresso, when we initially cupped it in Guatemala, it's under the banner La Leona. It's typically the mark that Caravella are giving to coffees from San Marcos, which share some common characteristics in cup profile. But because it was from these two farms specifically within this small village, we thought it was a little bit more accurate to describe it and market it. So we have San Cristóbal Cucho. We're going to dial in a shot, have a little taste. We've done an initial test roast of about 11.5 minutes, roasting it to about 209 degrees. So it's a fairly light end temperature for us, but that long time helps to really accentuate the body in the coffee and the balance. So there is still some brightness, there's still some acidity to it, but it's very much in check. And it's very much showcasing what we liked initially in the cupping bowl, which was a sort of plummy, round, elegant acidity rather than anything too bright or too sort of sharp. It's such a lovely body in this espresso. Even with a relatively long shot, 16 grams to 37 grams, it's still quite tactile and quite sticky, really nice weight on the palate. But also with that extra yield, you get a little more clarity of the flavours and that sort of really soft raisiny, almost muscat grape kind of like sweetness to it. Complements the chocolate and caramel kind of vein running through the core of the coffee. So it's a mixed farm lot because there's coffee from Eduardo Orozco and from Don Francisco in here. But because it's only two farms from within the same kind of locale in Guatemala, there's still really good clarity in the cup here. And they're growing the same variety at the same altitude with similar processing techniques. So it doesn't feel too muddled. It doesn't feel like a compromise of lots of coffees put together. Still incredibly high quality coffee here. But the volumes by themselves would not have been sufficient for us to take and roast as espresso for any kind of real extended period of time. very, very sweet. It's very enjoyable and not too intense or high in any real parameter. Not too bitter, not too acidic. Just really comforting around, and yeah, for me it's wonderful. And I'm really glad we spent some time to explore San Marcos, because I feel the profiles there are just wonderful for espresso. In the past, when we've had Huehuetenango Tenango coffees for espresso or from Fray Hannes, they're either very fruit driven or very body driven, but this seems a really nice mix of the two. So yeah, I'm looking forward to going back when we're able to travel again and seeing what they're doing. But we hope you enjoy this coffee as much as we are. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you soon.